There's certain music that puts you into an era and a mindset that just is nostalgic. Raheem DeVaughn is one of those artists that instantly does that. When his album dropped in 2005, The Love Experience, there was a song called Guess Who Loves You More that lived on the radio while we were in Philadelphia. It was amazing. It was a time when neo soul had not only hit hard in the area, but took over the airstream, took over the video world. You had your Jill Scotts, you had your Kindred the Family Soul, your Jaguar Rice, your Bilals, your Music Soul Childs. Like it was just an era where music was soulful. You got it from the guts of somebody, I'd like to say. And when I saw this guy come on the scene, it was another person that was here and was making his mark to stay. The end of last year, Raheem put out his new album, What a Time to Be in Love. We wanted to sit down with him and find out the inspiration behind the album, what his writing style was like, you know, what kind of things he uses to inspire himself, all the things that you want to know about a musician. So, being a singer and songwriter, Raheem has not only stamped his way into this industry, but he's put it in concrete. So, as always, y'all sit back, relax. Welcome to Suavv Sessions with Raheem DeVaughn. One, where did you grow up?
I was born in Orange, New Jersey. I grew up in the Maryland. I guess it was classified as a DC area, DMV. So
Okay.
Majority of my time as a youth in Maryland, and adulthood, and like kind of finding myself musically, in DC.
Nice. I mean, DC is pretty much, it's known for being a very unapologetically Black area. Did that really like influence you as an artist?
Definitely, yeah, definitely. Touching adulthood, most definitely, absolutely.
Cool. Did you find ways to like implement like the culture of DC into your music? I know there's a lot of like the go-go, a lot of the bongos, live music aspects of that area.
Yeah, I've experimented with go-go music. I mean, I have a couple of features with some of the bands. And most recently, I started a go-go band called the Crank Crusaders. So it's Raheem DeVaughn and the Crank Crusaders. So, yeah, there'll be some things. We got some things coming down the pipeline. For locally, and globally. We're gonna start locally and then let's spread globally. For the go-go community, as well as the true Washingtonians that love that genre of music. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So what was growing up like in DC? Like for you, what was that like?
I mean, typical. I mean, growing up, I come from a single parent household. My father wasn't in my household, but he was in my life. He's a jazz musician, retired jazz cellist under the art of Abdul Wadud. Raised predominantly by my mother, and my grandmother, who passed back in like the year that my first album came out, 05. Typical childhood, man, for the most part, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was a bit of a recluse and always had a love and passion for music, but I was just trying to get through school and get through life and figure myself out. And I think once I graduated is when I really fell in love with idea, and the idea of being like an artist and a songwriter and a singer and stuff of that nature.
Got you. When you got to that point and you started falling in love with music and writing songs, what inspired that?
Definitely, Babyface was a huge influence on me. Early, I had no formal training, so I learned how to write songs or like arrange the songs from listening to the songs.
Yeah.
So Babyface, Devontae from Jodeci, his vocal arrangement style and songwriting style, production style, was a huge fan of that as well.
Yeah.
Starting out, those probably were two of the major influences. Then, you know, once I discovered Faith Evans, who was a huge influence. You know, I would read credits, so I would see who was doing what, who was singing in the background, who was arranging the songs, you know, who was composing the songs. You know, so I think for me in the 90s, those would probably be the three biggest influences at that time. And then, of course, you know, like you had the pioneers like Marvin Gaye and Prince and Bob Marley, Earth, Wind and Fire, you know, just to name a few.
Right. So, and then you get into this yourself, and your career pretty much, from what we know, started in the era of the neo soul movement. Did you feel like that was like a perfect entryway for you and for your style of music?
Yeah, I mean, neo soul era started really technically, if you want to be technical, like 95. You know what I mean? That's when it kind of really, you know, it was coined by Kedar Massenberg at the time, who, you know, discovered and had artists like, you know, Erykah Badu, D'Angelo, India.Arie, Algebra, Granique, you know, Chico DeBarge. You know what I'm saying? Like, when those cats came out, the world didn't even know my name yet. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So first album didn't come out till 05. You know what I'm saying? 2005. So at that point, I think at that time, even then, like, you know, Music Soul Child was already out. You know, acts like Floetry. You know what I'm saying? We kind of came out around the same time. You know what I mean? But they were, you know, they even were released prior to. They were out before I was. You know what I mean? So it was kind of like, I definitely, you know, I now that I'm even thinking about it, like, Floetry had already been out, Jill was already out, Bilal, you know, so that Philly scene at that point was like, had taken over per se. You know? And I never looked at them kind of as like, I guess neo soul. I don't know if they were ever I guess they were kind of categorized as neo soul too, but it was like, you know, it was all intertwined. You know what I'm saying? I think the Roots played a big part of that. Black Lily, and, you know, you had artists like Jaguar Wright, and just, you know, I remember at that time where all that was going on, I was hitting like open mics on a Monday night in DC. I was hitting Black Lily, and then I was hitting Warm Wednesdays in Baltimore faithfully. So at one point, it was at one point where people didn't know whether I was from Philly, DC, or Baltimore, because I was hitting them so consistently, like a schedule.
Right.
Every month I'm here. Every Tuesday I'm here. Every Wednesday I'm here, faithfully. You know what I mean? People see you enough, they assume or start to think that you live there. You know, I was able to. That whole Philly scene was very, very tight knit. It wasn't easy to infiltrate. You know what I'm saying?
It's a circle. And
I hit the jackpot and kind of superseded all of that because, you know, through an introduction to Jazzy Jeff, through Kev Brown, you know, phenomenal producer, Kev Brown and Cy Young, who's a really dope MC at the time. Those guys took me directly to Jeff. So once I met Jeff, it was like going to see the Oz. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was, you know, everybody. I later found out that Jeff was the one that was kind of like the gateway, or had put like a lot of cats on. You know what I'm saying? And provided the studio spacing and, you know, the environment for cats to shed and create the Jill Scott albums, the Music Soul Child albums, the Bilal albums. You know what I'm saying? So he was the one common denominator between everybody and everything. First time I ever met, you know, Jill Scott was at Jazzy Jeff's studio. First time I ever met Dwelle, you know, it was at Jazzy. I wrote a song for him, Is It Possible, which ended up being on my first album. You know, but we ended up clicking, and, you know, meet Dwelle for the first time was dope, because it was kind of like, it was humbling. It was like, oh, all right, you think you just the dopest? It's some other dope artists out here. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it was, you know, Eric Roberson. I met Eric for the first time there. You know what I'm saying? Eric, he often jokes and tells a story of, like, he's like, man, you know, because I write the songs so fast, and technically I don't sit down and write them, but he would always joke and say, man, you would think he had two pens writing at the same time, that type of thing. But just a lot of people that I just met and just that are phenomenal artists that have went on to do phenomenal things and make their art, successfully in this genre we call R&B and soul music.
It's crazy because I look at that era the same way I kind of look at like early 90s hip hop. It's like artists sharpen each other.
Yeah.
And you were put in a circle of beasts when it
Yes,
came to that microphone.
we call Jeff Professor X, and it's kind of like X-Men for music. You know what I mean? Iron sharpens iron. Even most recently, even like 5 years ago, within the last 5 years, I went to an event again at Jeff's, and before the world knew their name, I remember meeting Sego. You know what I'm saying? I remember meeting Sir and spending like days with them, just being around, and everybody would kind of be doing their own thing or doing their thing together, and to see what they're doing now. Mamuna Youssef, Mumu Fresh, I know her since she was like 14, 15, 16 years old.
Yeah.
So it's like to kind of see everybody just manifesting and doing their thing. And the one common, the common connection that we have is, music and making some dope art,
And I think that's kind of like stands you guys out from the rest of the industry. Like, you're still true artists, whereas you have a lot of singers right now. But when you get like that artistry, and you get people who, you can tell like you're writing your stuff and you're putting like your life in your music, it stands out. So it separates you from the masses. Mm-hmm. So it's like a Raheem DeVaughn album's coming out. It's like, I know I'm going to get something from that. Whereas you get these other albums, it's like, you don't know. It's a coin toss. It might be good. It might not. It might have some relevance.
Yeah.
So that's dope.
I feel you on that. I never want to feel like the coin toss, It's always a sense of nervousness, but it's a good sense of nervousness, you know what I mean? I think we off to a great start with this body of work. I mean, just the projections of like, for what a time to be in love. Just what the 3 singles are already doing digitally at the DSPs, you know what I'm saying, and kind of connecting with that. That was the missing. I was kind of late bloomer on the technology of things, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But we catching up lovely right now.
All right. So what's the inspiration behind the new project?
What a Time to Be in Love is a project that, what I want people to get from it is like, celebrate your blackness. It's cool to be in touch with your sexuality, your sensual, your being sensual. You know what I mean? It's cool to also, I want people to get from it that it's cool to make records that can have a vibe, that can have a melody, and talk about something. From a social conscious standpoint. It's no secret where that the country is in an uproar, the planet is in an uproar. We don't know what's next. We're in the middle of a pandemic, a global pandemic. On top of that, we are now in a new millennial civil rights movement all over again. So the record, there's something on this record for everybody that speaks to all the things I just mentioned.
Yeah. What do you want your fans to take away from What a Time It Is to Be in Love?
I want them to, again, celebrate their blackness. I want people to, for me, I hope they hit a consistency. It's always about growth and consistency with me, you know what I mean? Like becoming a better vocalist, becoming a better songwriter, finding new ways to tell the story of love. This is probably my most risque, you know what I'm saying, album. Some people may argue that it's always been like that. But it's grown and managed, you know what I'm saying? But it's also, it's tasteful, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, it's erotic, it's poetic, it's tasteful art, it's sensual, you know what I mean? It's conscious, you know what I mean? And it's black, it's R&B, and it's soulful.
Yeah. Now, for you, do you have a preference over studio production or live music?
I'm a fan of both. You know, I want to give a big shout out to the colleagues who produced this album. You know, in particular, it's the first time I've done an entire body of work with one set of producers. You know what I mean? My entire career. You know, I'm getting into more of that. You know what I mean? For my new norm. But I'm a fan of both. You know, I think that after the album that I plan on, there's a solo. You know, there's a collaboration project that I did with another producer that hopefully that'll drop sometime in 2021. But there's, as far as like album number 9 in the Raheem DeVaughn brand, that's gonna be another R&B filled album. And then I think after that, I'm definitely gonna be like, you know, I'm gonna do the soul tapes. You know what I'm saying? Like in terms of like live instrumentation, and it's gonna be like all live, like, you know what I mean? Lives, which I've done in the past. You know what I mean? Like I straddle that line of like R&B and soul music, like, and I'm a lot of different things. I mean, I think people, I displayed that on the first album. Like, I mean, I've kind of been walking in that path since. It's like, you know, I coined myself the R&B hippie neo soul rock star. That wasn't by pure coincidence. It was like the goal was to give you an R&B album, give you at some point I may come out with a rock album. At some point I may do a jazz EP. Like, you know, it's music, and if you can't have fun with it, and be creative, then, you know, like anything else, you know, you can lose your passion for it. So, you know,
so you just don't box yourself into a genre.
Yeah, being creative and being innovative allows you to stay in love with it.
Yeah, that's dope. What was for you the hardest song you've ever written?
The hardest song I've ever written?
Yeah.
Probably the most. I don't know about. It's never hard for me to write a song, like, because for one, I don't write it down. It's pure emotion in that moment. You know what I'm saying? So give me a dope engineer, give me some dope beats, you know, production I can rock with, and, you know, and lock me in for 12 hours. You know, we definitely gonna get one out of it. I may have 2-3 records when it's said and done, or I may spend the entire 12 hours on one song if it's that important to me. You know what I mean? Like,
I have a lot of
the Love Experience album, the actual title track of Love Experience, true story, no joke. I started recording that song at 6:00 on a Monday evening, I'll say, and I didn't leave the studio till 12 noon the next day. Like, literally, my A&Rs came in. Hey, you good? Make sure you set up. I'm gonna go back up to the office and I'm gonna leave. And that probably was maybe like more like 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon when I started that session.
Right.
I literally worked all night through the morning to the next day. Like when they came back to listen to the song, it was lunch. It was lunchtime. And but when I'm in there, I don't have any concept. There's no concept of time. Like when I'm creating music, like I can be in there hours, or I could be literally in there days. You know what I'm saying? I'll take a nap, whatever, come right back like a robot, like addicted. You know what I mean? Like it's, you know, it's a cool addiction and a vice to have. You know, creativity, but you still have to, you know, take care of yourself through the process. And, you know what I mean?
Right. Nah, I got you.
Nourish yourself and that type of thing. You know, so that's something that that I had to, you know, that I've understood over time, you know.
A day in the studio, literally a day in the studio to get an album out. This interview made me not only respect this man more, but it made me appreciate his music more. It makes me understand who he is as an artist, and I think that's what's important about our Suavv Session interviews. It's not just about finding out, you know, about this one thing, this one project. It's about understanding this person in totality. It's an honor to be able to speak with somebody like Raheem. I look forward to more of his music and more of his passion being delivered to us through song. So, as always, you guys check out Suavv online, www.suavv.com. Subscribe to these videos so you don't miss anything. So y'all spread some love, stay safe, stay Suavv. Peace.